Hi, everybody. Let me make sure you can hear me. Hello, welcome to my first live stream. I'm so glad that you could join me. I wanted to talk today about a topic that many people have come to me asking about throughout the course of my life. And that is how actually, there are two parts to this question. One is, should I believe my intuition? And where does my true power come from? Throughout my life, I have had experiences that have shown me where the power of your will and the power of your will and your perspective over life is where your true empowerment is. But there's also a tool that you have inside of yourself, your intuition, that is part of your emotional intelligence, sensory self. And when you have that intact, when you have validated that your emotions and senses are valuable to you, you have a greater capacity to understand, hear, and feel your intuition. And I'll give you a little example of something that happened to me, one of the most actually traumatic experiences that happened to me when I was a child, that helped my intuition to alert me to the fact that me and my family were in danger. Now, over the course of my life, I had many experiences that my intuition alerted me to this danger that I was in with my family or with people that would come into our lives. And it proved to be a very valuable tool to me. So I kept my intuition intact. I knew to always believe it. If I felt something telling me something wasn't right, if I sensed it in any way, if the hair stood up on the back of my neck, if there was any kind of feeling inside of me that something was off, I believed it. And in this particular story that I'll tell you about, it'll help show you how important it is to believe, why believing your intuition is really key to saving your life and keeping you out of some of the most dangerous situations you can find yourself in. So this story was when I was very young. I was around 4 years old, and my mother had started dating someone who was a Marine who had been removed from the military. She didn't know it at the time, but this Marine had actually been dishonorably discharged. And she started dating him. And I remember that when she brought him to our home, he showed up looking very handsome and very charming. He had a guitar with him. He was very soft-spoken. He would sit and play his guitar in the living room for me and my sister when we were really young, while my mom was cooking dinner the first time we met him. And even though what he was presenting was really lovely, and we sat and listened to the music that he played for us and just sat there quietly enjoying his company, inside of myself, I knew there was something off. I could feel this man was not who he was presenting himself to be. And even though I was accepting of the persona that he was offering us at that age, I was sitting with it and being peaceful around him. I knew inside of myself that he was to be feared. And I could feel inside of my own body that my sister and my mother didn't see the same things I could see in him, the potential of danger that he had inside of him. And so my mom started seeing him for, I don't know, a few months, and he, romanced her and gave her, a really great short few months where he showered her with attention and affection and gifts, and would take her to nice dinners and do things with her. And I could just feel that he was dangerous the whole time. So I would stay pretty distant as much as I could. And then something happened in their adult world. And I'm not privy to exactly how things went down. But I remember coming home one night to find that our house, he wasn't with us. We had gone out to dinner with my mom. And we were coming back to the house and it was dark. And my mom always left lights on inside so that when we came home, we could see the house. And I think that was really smart of her, being a single mom and, wanting to make sure she could always see what was visible going on, that nobody had maybe broken in or there was any kind of danger. So when we arrived to the house and all the lights were off, she was immediately alerted that something didn't seem right. So she told me and my sister, just stay out here on the porch. And she went inside and checked out the house and found that my bunny was missing. And she immediately searched everywhere for my bunny rabbit and found that he had been murdered in the backyard. And I'll save the graphic details for you, because nobody should have to see or hear that. And then she found that he had burned our baby pictures and had tried, it looked like, to set the house on fire. So she called the police and reported it. And very shortly after that, she was getting ready for a date within weeks to go out with another gentleman. And he literally came over and busted the door open and beat her tremendously. And to the point where, like, she lost all of her teeth and stuff. It was traumatic. We all saw it. It was really terrible. Shortly after that, the guy comes to our house and starts chasing us down the street with a crowbar, trying to kill us. So my mom, after all this happened, we went into hiding. We had to move houses. It was really terrifying time. He found us, and no matter where we were, he was able to locate us somehow. But I remember that my mom, she was just so shocked. Everything came out of nowhere. She had been charmed by this guy, romanced by this guy. She didn't see that side of him. But I always knew he had that side of him, that capacity. And I remember when I got older telling my mom, that I always knew he was a bad guy, that I could see it, that I knew. And there were so many other times where I let my mom know somebody was dangerous or some situation was bad, that we should not go in that direction. And she was always like, how did you know? How did you know? And the way that I knew my whole life, who not to trust, who to stay very far away from, who not to accept gifts from or opportunities from, because it's not what it seems, is because I had this intuition intact. I had the ability to want to see and know the truth, even if it was difficult and painful. And I think that's one of the key things that people often miss about, they want the intel and the insight of intuition, but sometimes they don't understand that having intuition, having insight, having knowing, it puts you in a situation where you have to face the truth about some real serious evil and darkness in the world, or some malicious intentions that people might have. And it can make you feel very victimized, very vulnerable. And because people don't like to feel vulnerable, a lot of times they will cut off their emotional, sensory intelligence and that intuitive part of themselves. And they will go into the mind, into the egoic mind, because in the egoic mind, there's control, this illusion of control anyway. Oh, well, what I can achieve materialistically is what I can control. And the rest of it is who knows, but I'm going to do my best at controlling everything. But in the reality, there's a lot of fake people in our world, in our landscape. There are a tremendous amount of people who will perpetrate a fraud on you. They will put up false illusions. They will mask themselves and pretend like they are the good people, the people who want to help, the people who care. But if you put them to the test, or you see it through, or for a while, what you'll see is that a lot of times it's just a game. It's a game to see what you're getting. It's a game to see what they ultimately can get from you, I guess. And so it's really important to have your intuition intact, to know how to read a person or a situation, and how to sense what's really true about it. I have a comment coming in here. Let's see. Intuition is so important to have in this world. Why do you think some people choose not to trust it? Well, I think people choose not to trust it because it's sometimes conflicts the outcome that they feel comfortable with. It can also make them feel vulnerable in a way, to have to confront something that is not an easy truth to confront. Let's just say you make a friend, right? And you want to see the best in this person, but this person might be doing something maliciously to harm another person. You may have a sense that this person is doing something to harm other people and enjoys it, but you don't want to confront that because it makes you feel really bad about this person that you know. And so I feel like people will sometimes avoid their intuitive sense because it conflicts with the story they're operating with. It conflicts with the relationships that they're in. It conflicts with the goals that they have in mind. You might be in a situation where you really want the outcome that is in your mind. And if this intuition says, no, that's not the way that it is, your mind will take over and say, well, we really want this goal, so we're going to see it through. And then you might find yourself in a really bad situation, realizing that you've made yourself vulnerable to somebody, and now they've hurt you and harmed you. And all along there was this gut instinct about it that you were kind of ignoring or repressing. And so intuition is a extremely powerful tool that we're born with, we're born connected to. But if you've lost if you've lost connection to your intuition, I want to encourage you to consider how you might begin empowering those feelings inside of your gut. For me, my intuition comes into my gut belly, which is, interestingly enough, neuroscientists have found that the gut is the second brain for the body. It actually has a lot more to do with intelligence than they realized before. And so there's a lot of really interesting research on that, about how your gut is much more intelligent and aware than even sometimes the brain, because the brain is conditioned with certain belief systems and patterns and expectations, whereas the gut is just a raw sensory experience that's kind of like very much in tune with the truth for your survival. So the intuition comes through this space. And so a part of restoring your intuition is really about being okay with being with the truth, no matter what it is, no matter if it conflicts yours, no matter if it puts you in a space where you might have to change your expectations or the things that you were thinking were going to happen. There are so many stories out there that I watch all the time of people who get tricked by people, con artists, people who start dating somebody, and then the next thing they know, they've had their entire life savings taken from them. They've been manipulated somehow because they were vulnerable and they didn't have a gut intuition that could help guide them into really vetting a person and seeing what's really true about someone. So I think that really, when you talk about like human empowerment, when you talk about living your best power powerful life when you really understand what creates the conditions of power within us. You know, sometimes we feel so disempowered. We feel like life is just happening to us and it's just we're surviving as best as we can. And we feel like we sometimes don't know what we're doing, but that gut instinct, that intuition, that knowing is always there to guide us towards the thing that is the long-term best interest for us. You know, sometimes our brains only look short term. What is the immediate gain that we want? What do we need immediately? But that long-term instinct and intuition is really what you use to empower your life in a much more wise journey. So I think that, you know, usually I would ask the audience to ask questions at this point, but it doesn't look like we have anybody really on this call, just a few people. So I want to say if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask about intuition or how they can empower it, or maybe share stories of a time that you have gone through experiencing your intuition and how powerful that was to you. I'd really love to hear those stories. There is another one coming in here. It seems like all animals in the world are connected to their intuition. They need it for survival. How do some of us become disconnected from it, and how can we learn to trust it again? Animals use their inner guidance system to live. It's kind of a different mapping of intelligence and how you use it. They have their brains that they use to record memory and to understand what their needs are and get those needs met in the immediate way. But they also have an internal guidance system, which helps them to analyze situations from different data points. So they will use more cautiously, they will kind of take in information more cautiously over time, where they're analyzing things without a predication of need, but more of a learning and an interest. And they, because of this, because they're able to spend time paying attention to things, watching things, being present with things in their raw gut kind of truth, they are able to predict where danger is coming, that when things might be coming that are very dangerous. So I think that if you want to become more like that, then that requires you to live less in the mind that has been conditioned around knowing everything and around a right and a wrong, and more in a learning mindset, a gut learning mindset of just paying attention and being conscious with all of life, every moment, what's happening around you, what are the nuances, how are the behaviors shifting, is there danger, is there opportunity, does that benefit you, does that benefit all? There's just so many ways of different levels of processing that you would utilize to live like an animal does. And a lot of people believe that animals, they just live to eat or whatever, but they're so much deeper than that. They have this ability to really bond because they are sensitive creatures. And that sensitivity is what their natural intelligence system. The fact that they can sense and be connected to that sentience, be connected to those feelings that come through putting that energy out there to be interested and then sensing it through their own body of what's true. That's what the animals have that humans have really disconnected from, because we have relied upon our own brains and our own thinking as some sort of superior intellect. And while it's handy in some situations, like say if we want to build a bridge, it's quite handy to have our minds orchestrate a very complex plan that allows us to build a bridge. But if we look at how animals do things, they are able to achieve great things as well, especially in architecture. It's really interesting. I mean, look at beavers. They build some really intricate dams. The honeybees, these hives are incredibly constructed. There's a lot of intelligence to living through in a way that is in touch with your senses and your gut intuition and knowing. And it's not to discount what the brain can do, but I'm a firm believer that when you live by your gut instinct and you use your brain as an additional constructor, those two integrated systems are a real powerhouse. Let's see, there's another comment coming in here. Do you think trauma or really authoritative parents can play a role in us not trusting our intuition? Yes, for sure. Um, Trauma has a way of making us feel insecure and unsure about ourselves. It conditions us towards um, believing in the authority that has dominated us. And let's just say we grew up with parents that were physically violent to us. Maybe they weren't overtly abusive, but they might have physically punished us with corporal punishment, or they might have punished us through deprivation. Those can definitely impact us because we will we'll stop feeling like it's okay for us to naturally be inquisitive and to even make what some people might consider mistakes just for the fact of learning. And we'll kind of shut that ability down in order to do what society or our parents or the environment we're in considers right and wrong. And so, and the education system is a really big contributor to us disconnecting from our emotional intelligence system, because we become conditioned over many years that there's one right answer, and it's not the answer that you arrive to. It's an answer that some other system offers you, that some other system gives you, that's decided by a bunch of other authority people, and you're just here to memorize it. You're not here to process whether that's true or not. You're not here to really, you have to, like, they remove you from the ability to know how to arrive to your own thinking and answers. And when you don't have your own process of intelligence to really work out, do I believe this is true? Let me look at the details. Let me look at this information and arrive to something on my own. There's like a fear of that. You become very afraid to have your own answer that might be unpopular with your social peer group, because there can be devastating consequences. There can be consequences of punishment, rejection, social isolation, alienation. And those are the worst things you can do to a human being. Those can cause some of the most painful experiences for a human being. So if you are raised in traumatic patterns, even if it's just from the school system, from being told that you're wrong all the time, from not getting good grades, from being humiliated when you raise your hand and ask questions that someone else might think is stupid, there are so many ways that it will shut a person down and make a person feel disinterested in the learning that they have inside of themselves, that's innately a part of who they are in their sensory being, that can arrive intuitive intelligence. Intuitive intelligence is not just here to save your life. It's also here to enrich your life and to help the lives of others. It's like, if you happen across, like, imagine that you're walking down the street and you see a dog fall into a well. And if you're disconnected from your intuitive intelligence, you're going to be kind of like, I have no idea what to do. Let me go get somebody who is better equipped than I am. But if you're a random person who's got their intuitive intelligence contact, you might be able to quickly think of a solution. Let me go tie some twigs together. Let me go find a long branch. Let me see if I can pull that animal up myself in some way, some fashion, some sort of thing that can help pull this animal to safety immediately. There is a more that's a stage. Sorry about that, everybody. My internet went out for a moment. I hope you can still hear me. Um, Let me know if you're here. Can you hear me? Is everybody that's here able to hear me? Send me a chat. It looks like we had 3 people and now we're down to 1. Darn it. Well, okay. Anyway, I think I've made my points anyhow about how important intuitive intelligence is to you. There are so many things in life that will allow you to use your intelligence in ways that are so beneficial. You know, this world that we're living in today is so dangerous. I can't believe how many stories I hear of people who are like literally shopping in stores with their children and like having to like rescue their children from danger all over the place. People trying to grab their kids and like run out of these stores and like people just getting nabbed right off the streets. It's like you really need to have your intuition intact. You need to know like when that car is approaching you, what to do. You need to have that go-to plan. The intuition is there not just to save your life, but to actually know how to move on the behalf of other people and in situations quickly in a way that doesn't require the slow processing of the mind. It knows exactly what to do because the gut knows exactly what to do so much faster than the brain can compute. That's why when you see people who do like life-saving things over and over and over again, they're conditioned. They know exactly what to do all the time, quickly. There is a way that we help train ourselves and become more intuitive through that processing and that training. So if you feel disconnected from your intuitive knowing, then it's really about training yourself to become trusting about what your gut is telling you about a situation. And, you know, I learned a long time ago that asking your body, what do you believe? What's going on? What's true? It will speak back to you. I know that sounds so crazy, but it really will. Like you will be so amazed if you tune into your body and ask it to tell you things. You will be shocked. There's like an internal dialogue that can happen that will tell you exactly what you need to know. And I practice that in times when I'm sick, when I need to know something that my mind would never be able to conceive. Um, and there is always information that comes up. Um, Intuition is also something that I think can be nurtured through healthy relationships. Like a lot of people I've talked to, they don't believe like telepathy is a real thing, but I've experienced telepathy a lot in my life. I don't know if it's because I'm a highly sensitive person and I have a lot of kind of extrasensory gifts. But I I don't think that's true. As far as, I feel like everybody has this, because I know animals have it. Animals have telepathy. They can predict things. They know how to speak without language. And this is all part of like an intuitive intelligence kind of like package within us, if you will. And I believe all beings have it. It's just really up to each person to figure out how to practice it and trust it and be vulnerable. And so, yeah, so I encourage you to, the next time you get conflicting information, like if you have this really strong feeling that comes into your body, if you have something that's like, I don't know what it is, but it's just something doesn't seem right. Like, I don't know, I really can't prove it, but it's something just doesn't seem right. Just believe that. Just believe that. That's enough, because over time you'll see the truth. But what you have to do is empower and listen to that feeling. If something doesn't seem right, if something seems like it's a lie, if anything seems off about a situation, just trust and believe that and move in that direction. Sometimes we get conflicting stories that come through our brain. Our brain's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about. So we'll like kind of discount that through our brain. Our brain will be like, well, I can't really prove that. So, and I cannot tell you how many stories, like crime stories, I hear where people discounted that. They had a feeling, they didn't listen to it, they thought they were crazy, they did what they were going to normally do, and then boom, the worst thing that could ever happen happens to them. It happens all the time. So we do have an intelligence within us. We do have the ability to have telepathy with others and connect through that intuitive communication that is a part of us when we are connected to ourselves in a deep emotional and spiritual way. Then we also have the ability to connect to animals and to other people in the same way. So I encourage you to practice that, and I'm interested in seeing what your experience has been. So if you have any comments about that, about your stories, I'd love to hear those too. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first live StreamYard. I was very, very nervous about doing this. For those of you who don't know, I'm extremely camera shy. I am a person who always feels like anything I have to say is like something probably people already know. And so it takes a lot for me to, talk to you guys about this stuff. If there's anything that you think I could do better, or anything you'd like me to talk about in future live streams, please let me know. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'll be hosting these weekly. Until I see you again, be well and take care. Love you.